everyone, my name is Ban Yating from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Today, it's my great honor to present the 1.3 micron photoluminescence from indium arsenide GaN quantum dots on CMOS-compatible 001 silicon by MOSFET. I'll start with the challenges of crowded information highway and how it drives our motivation to pursue the heteroarchitecture growth of 3-phi on silicon. I'll then introduce our special way to grow GaN arsenide on weight group silicon, and on top of it, we have achieved 1.3 micron emission from quantum dots with narrow full width maximum. I'll then present the characterization of the quantum dot structure and then end with a conclusion. We are now faced with fast-growing internet and increasing power requirements, and it's getting more and more painful to do this with copper wires. Actually, the copper wires has been completely replaced by optical fibers in the long-haul communication system, as the latter are intrinsically advantageous in large bandwidth, low crosstalk, immune to electromagnetic interference, and extremely low propagation loss. It will be perfect if we can drive the photonics further into the chip level. However, after a half-century of innovation, the optical communication system is still on the component level, similar to the electronics in the 1960s. Ironically, after the same period of time of integration, the first silicon IC, which comprised of only 2 transistors, has developed into billions of transistors driven by Moore's law. It is silicon manufacturing that made all this possible. So, the answer now is simple. That is, merging photonics and CMOS, merging the optical communication system with the advanced CMOS manufacturing for high-level integration, better performance control, wafer-level testing, and low-cost packaging. Many companies and communities have involved, including some big giants like IBM and Intel. However, we have to face a very serious problem that silicon is a bad emitter, and then the material again has to be included. Wafer bonding represents the most advanced technology and has demonstrated with most advanced devices. However, size and cost of the 3-phi substrate remain an issue. Heteroarchitecture growth, on the other hand, may offer us an alternative for lower cost and improving yield. However, the growth of 3-phi on silicon is never trivial because of the very different lattice constant, thermal expansion coefficient, and polarity. The resulted dislocations, stress, and phase domains will degrade the performance and reduce the lifetime of any devices fabricated on the S-grown layer. There are exciting results with lasers. However, for the gallium phosphide material system, it's challenging to push the wavelengths to the desired telecommunication bands. Well, really high-performance 1.3 micron quantum dot lasers has been achieved. The 3-dimensional nature of the quantum dots are less vulnerable to defects, leading to improved performance and prolonged lifetime for lasers. However, just like the gallium timonide material system, these 2 kinds of lasers are exclusively grown on the off-cut silicon substrate, thereby compromising their full compatibility with the mainstream silicon CMOS manufacturing. So, in our group, we have developed a special way to grow GaN arsenide on weight group 001 silicon. We start with a nano-patterned weight group silicon substrate and grow the GaN arsenide nanowires inside the trenches, separated by the silicon oxides. Through the aspect ratio trapping process, most defects can be localized in the weight groups, and the 101 surface has eliminated any formation of any-phase domains. After removing the silicon oxides, we then use the GaN arsenide nanowires as seed layers for the subsequent lateral overgrowth, and we were able to achieve thin GaN arsenide films with a smooth surface free of any phase domains. We then grow the quantum dot structures on the GUV substrate, together with the lattice matching GaN arsenide substrate and our off-cut silicon template. After the band layer formation, the quantum dots were deposited. After seeing GaAs the cap, we then performed indium flash to remove the large coalesced dots. And finally, we capped with another GaAs night cap. Before the capping, the quantum dot structures were examined by AFM, and we find a high quantum dot density up to 5.6 times 10 to the power of 10 per centimeter square for the quantum dot on GeoVS substrate. The coalescence islands are slightly higher than the GaAs substrate, but much smaller than the off-color silicon template, which could be attributed to the buffer condition. Here is a typical cross-sectional TM, and we can see that on the GeoVS substrate, most defects can be localized in the V groups, and very few can be seen in the buffer layer. On the contrary, a large density of defects was observed in the buffer, and there are many chances that the dislocation lines punch through the active region and create a non-radiative radion recombination centers. Actually, in the larger scale, our GeoVS substrate is not totally free. However, there are much more defects in the active region on the off-color silicon template. To be more quantitative, we calculated the spreading dislocations according to plane view TM images, and we find a threefold reduction of spreading dislocations using the V-group structure. Here is a photoluminescence comparison in both room temperature and low temperature. And we find the GeoVS substrate has obtained a 1.3 micron room temperature emission from quantum dots with a narrow full-width maximum of only 29 MeV. To get more insights into the quantum dot structure, we extract the thermal activation energy through the integrated PL intensity as a function of the reciprocal of temperature. The thermal activation energies are close in value. The peak positions are also close in value, and these two indicate that the quantum dot structures on the three kinds of templates are basically the same. So, the emission intensity difference is mainly ascribed to the defect density in the materials. As to the temperature-dependent full-width maximum, we know that the thermal escape of carriers from smaller dots is easier compared to the larger dots. So, as temperature increases, there will be a preferential quenching of photoluminescence from the smaller quantum dots as compared to the larger dots. This leads to the redshifting in peak position and a narrowing in full-width maximum. It's worth mentioning that the value of the full-width maximum on off-color silicon template is always much higher than the other two. Indicates a more serious homogeneous broadening of dot size distributions for quantum dots on the off-color silicon template. We then track how the PL peak intensity changes with temperature. We know that there's always two effects compete with each other in the whole temperature ranging. The recapturing effect, which refers to the photocarriers in the vanning layer, can get a chance to be recaptured by the quantum dots again. This leads to an increase in PL intensity and is the dominating factor at the low temperature ranging. The thermal activation effects, on the contrary, means the photocarriers captured by the quantum dots can get a chance to be thermally activated out of the quantum dots. This leads to an increase in PL intensity and is the dominating factor in high temperature ranging. And so, in this low temperature ranging, for quantum dots on GeoVS and GaAs side, the recapturing effect is stronger than thermal activation, so leads to an increase in PL intensity. However, for quantum dots on the off-color silicon template, the photocarriers in the vanning layer recombine non-radiatively instead of relaxing into the dots. So we can see continuous PL quenching as a result of large density of defects presented in the active region. Through all the PL analysis, we have demonstrated superior optical qualities of the quantum dot on V-group structure compared to off-color silicon template. This is consistent with our previous AFN and TM analysis, where a higher density of coalescence and higher density of defects penetrating the active region was observed on the off-color silicon template. So here the conclusion. we have got amethyst domain-free GaAs thin films on CMOS-compatible 001 silicon substrate. And using this dual vs template, we have got 1.3 micron room temperature emission with a narrow full width maximum. This method don't have to use off-cut silicon substrate or gradient germanium buffers. That's more compatible with the mainstream CMOS manufacturing, offering great opportunities for 3-fine material and device integration on silicon. Thank you for all your attention.